Welcome to the Psychology Undergrad.
Grab a coffee, or maybe an energy drink, because we are staring down a massive stack of notes today.
We really are. We are officially cramming for abnormal psychology. And, well, you're invited to join our ultimate study session.
It's going to be a deep dive today, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our mission today is reviewing this monster textbook chapter. It's on current paradigms and integrative approaches.
Right, which honestly sounds super dry when you just read the title out loud.
Oh, totally. But it's actually completely wild once you get into the history of it.
It is, because a paradigm, which is a term from that philosopher guy, Thomas Kuhn, right?
Yeah, Kuhn.
Right, so a paradigm is basically just a lens, or like a set of rules that completely defines how scientists are even allowed to study a subject.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is, the paradigm you choose completely biases how you interpret the facts.
It creates your reality.
Right. And if you're wondering why you should even care about this, because, we're just undergrads, it's because how you view a problem completely dictates how you try to solve it.
Oh, 100%.
Like, if you view your anxiety as a biological glitch, you just take a pill.
Right.
But if you view it as a learned habit, you retrain your behavior. So since everything psychological fundamentally happens inside a physical body, I figured the logical place for us to start this deep dive is, well, looking at the biological paradigm.
The body as the machine.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is the medical model, or the disease model.
Right.
It operates on this really straightforward assumption that abnormal behavior is just caused by aberrant biological processes.
Right.
So genetics, neurotransmitters, that kind of thing.
Treating mental illness the exact same way a doctor treats asthma.
Which sounds super modern and scientific, right?
It does. Until you read the historical section in our notes, my jaw literally dropped.
Oh, you mean the Dr. Hall thing?
Yes. Okay, so get this. In the year 1900, there was this doctor in British Columbia, Dr. Hall. And he was treating what they called insanity in women.
Oh, the old insanity diagnosis, never good.
Never good. And there was this specific patient, they call her Mrs. D in the text, who had severe paranoia. She was completely delusional, thinking her husband was trying to poison her. And his treatment for this purely psychological delusion, he surgically removed her ovaries.
It's horrifying.
It's literally insane.
But see, if you step back and look at the mechanism of his logic, that is the true danger of a paradigm.
Right, because he thought he was doing the right thing.
Exactly. Dr. Hall wasn't acting randomly. He was operating strictly within this biological paradigm that believed, mental instability in women was caused by diseased nerves connected to the reproductive organs.
Wow. So through his lens, the ovaries were the literal source of the brain disease.
Yes. So extracting them was the logical scientific cure to him. It
Okay.
just perfectly shows how a paradigm doesn't just guide you, it limits your options. And it can justify absolute atrocities if your starting assumption is wrong.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thankfully, our biological lens has evolved a bit since 1900.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Like, today we aren't removing organs to cure paranoia. We are looking at behavior genetics.
Right, like the twin studies.
Exactly. Comparing MZ identical twins who share all their DNA with the DZ fraternal twins to map out the physical blueprints of vulnerability.
And they also look at biochemistry, the neurotransmitters.
Okay, so I actually came up with an analogy to help remember how neurotransmitter reuptake works for the exam.
Oh, nice. Lay it on me.
Okay, so think of the synapse, that tiny gap between two neurons, as a super messy floor.
Okay, messy floor. Got it.
The first neuron drops a bunch of chemical messengers like serotonin or dopamine onto the floor to send a signal. But if those chemicals just stay on the floor, the brain gets wildly overstimulated.
The system floods.
Exactly. So the brain has this built-in vacuum cleaner system. That's the reuptake.
Oh, I like that.
It literally just sucks the leftover chemicals back up into the first neuron so the floor is clean for the next message.
That is actually a perfect mental model. And it explains how SSRI drugs work, right? They essentially block the vacuum cleaner, so more serotonin stays on the floor.
Boom. Exactly.
But, and the notes are really clear about this, relying solely on this biological lens leads us to this philosophical trap called reductionism.
Right, reductionism,
Yeah.
which is reducing complex things to molecules.
Exactly. Is the idea that our incredibly complex mental life, our grief, our joy, our trauma, can just be reduced entirely to genetic code and chemicals.
Which is kind of bleak.
It's super bleak, because if you believe biology is destiny, it inadvertently strips away your moral agency.
Wait, how so?
Well, why bother trying to change your habits or leave a toxic environment if you're ultimately just a meat machine executing a pre-written program?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it totally removes personal responsibility.
Right. So if we aren't just meat machines, we need a different paradigm, one that explains how the mind learns from the environment.
Which brings us to segment 2 of our study session, the cognitive behavioral paradigm.
This was a massive shift in psychology.
Huge. And it's basically a mashup, right? The behavioral perspective, which is how we learn, plus the cognitive perspective, which is how we think.
Exactly.
Okay, I have another trick to remember the types of behavioral learning for the test.
You were full of them today. Let's hear it.
I try. Okay, so classical conditioning, like Pavlov's dogs or Watson's little Albert, that is all about reflexes.
Right. Pairing a neutral stimulus with an unconditioned one.
Exactly, until you form a phobia or a reflex. Then you have operant conditioning, which is Skinner, and that is about operating on the world.
Oh, operating. Operant. I see what you did there.
Right. It's learning through rewards and punishments. And the last one is modeling, like Bandura's Bobo doll, which is basically just monkey see, monkey do.
Monkey see, monkey do. Okay, that's definitely going on a flashcard.
Glad it could help. But humans don't just blindly react to rewards and punishments like rats in a maze. We actually think about things.
Right, which is the cognitive shift. This is where schemas come in.
The mental filters.
Yeah. A schema is this deeply ingrained narrative about how the world works. When something happens to you, it has to pass through your schema, which colors how you perceive the whole event.
And this is where cognitive therapy steps in. Specifically, the notes talk about Albert Ellis and his rational emotive behavior therapy, REBT.
Oh, Ellis, the guy who hated demandingness.
Yes, he focused on eliminating those rigid musts and shoulds that we all carry around.
Like, I must get an A on this exam or I'm a complete failure.
Exactly. It causes so much emotional turmoil. So cognitive therapy challenges those irrational thoughts. But, and I wrote huge question mark in my margin here, and I've pushed back on this a little bit.
Okay, what's your critique?
If cognitive therapy is telling me that my depression is caused by my own irrational thoughts, isn't that just blaming the victim?
Oh, that's a good point.
Like, where did these negative schemas come from in the first place? I didn't ask to have a terrible mental filter.
Right, you didn't just consciously invent it one day.
Exactly. So it feels a little dismissive to just say, change your thoughts and you'll be fine.
That exact friction is why the next paradigm was invented. Cognitive therapy fixes the plumbing on the first floor, but it ignores the basement.
The basement being our unconscious.
Yes. To answer where those deep-seated unseen patterns come from, we have to look at the psychoanalytic paradigm.
Enter Sigmund Freud.
The man, the myth, the cigar.
Right. And his whole theory is that psychopathology results from unconscious conflicts.
And morality plays a huge role here, actually.
It really does. I actually use a cartoon trope to remember Freud's structure of the mind. You know, the classic angel and devil on your shoulder?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, so the id is the biological devil. It's totally unconscious, operates on the pleasure principle, and just wants libido and gratification.
Pure chaos.
Pure chaos. Then the superego is the angel. And this represents our strict moral conscience, the rules of religion, society, our parents. It operates on the perfection principle.
Right, it's constantly judging you.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And then the ego is just the stressed out human caught in the middle. It uses the reality principle, just trying to survive the demands of both.
That's a great way to visualize it. And when the ego gets overwhelmed by failing to meet the superego's strict moral codes, it experiences what Freud called moral anxiety.
Right. The guilt is just crushing.
Exactly. And to protect itself from that moral anxiety, the ego uses defense mechanisms.
Like reaction formation.
Yes, converting an unacceptable feeling into its exact opposite, like converting deep hatred into smothering love.
Or projection. Like if a woman is unconsciously angry, she might walk around thinking everyone else is angry at her.
She projects her shadow onto everyone else. Now, it is important to note that modern psychoanalysis isn't really like this anymore.
Right. No more lying on a couch for 5 years talking about your childhood dreams.
Yeah, thankfully. Modern versions like interpersonal therapy or IPT are much briefer. They focus on how these hidden patterns are messing up your current relationships.
Which is practical. But honestly, psychoanalysis just paints such a dark, conflict-ridden picture of human nature.
Governed by hidden urges and strict moral policing.
Yeah. It's exhausting. What if we just assumed people were actually fundamentally good instead?
Well, then we would be looking through the humanistic paradigm.
Carl Rogers.
Yep, Carl Rogers and client-centered therapy. The core belief here is that people have free will, They are innately good, and they are driven towards self-actualization.
They naturally want to bloom.
Exactly. And this directly contrasts with a lot of traditional religious concepts, actually.
Oh, like original sin.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just the idea of inherent human brokenness. In the humanistic paradigm, the therapist provides what Rogers called unconditional positive regard, which is basically a sort of ultimate secular grace.
Perfectly said. The therapist doesn't set any conditions of worth. They just accept you completely as you are.
Okay, but, and I'm going to push back hard here again.
I love it. Keep it coming.
If people are innately good and they just need empathy to self-actualize, how do you explain bullying? Or people who do genuinely terrible, sadistic things?
That is the ultimate critique of humanism.
Like, am I supposed to just give a serial killer unconditional positive regard and wait for them to bloom?
Right, it sounds naive. But the expert context here is that humanism believes people only become disturbed or cruel when faulty learning or terrible environments intervene.
Okay, so they aren't born bad.
Right. Their phenomenological world, their subjective reality, gets violently distorted by pain or neglect. The key to therapy isn't excusing the behavior, but using primary and advanced empathy to help them shift that distorted worldview.
Okay, I see. So terrible environments corrupt innately good people.
And that's the theory.
But if that's true, it completely forces us to look outside the individual. We have to look at the society raising them.
Which is the perfect transition to the psychosocial and cultural paradigm.
Yes, looking outside the cell. So we're talking about parenting, peers, culture, all those external factors.
Let's start with parenting. Diana Baumrine's parenting styles are huge here.
Right. She talks about the rigid rule following of authoritarian parenting.
Which is high control, low warmth.
Exactly. And she contrasts that with the neglectful permissive style, which is high warmth but zero control.
And neither of those is great for moral development.
No. The sweet spot is authoritative parenting. Warmth plus reason and boundaries.
And when the environment is toxic, the results are tragic. The notes mention Amanda Todd.
Oh, the cyberbullying case. That was so heartbreaking.
It was. It shows how peers can completely destroy mental health. But it did lead to the creation of PreDayNet in Canada to fight victimization.
So the environment can be violently toxic, but it can also be toxic in a completely different way by being too privileged.
Oh, you're talking about the affluenza case?
Yes, Ethan Couch, the teen who killed 4 people driving drunk.
Right.
His defense actually claimed that his wealthy, limit-free, permissive upbringing meant he literally couldn't tell right from wrong.
Which is such a wild defense. And to be clear to our listeners, we aren't taking a side on the politics or the justice system here. We are just reporting what the sources discuss.
Right, exactly. We're totally impartial. But as a psychological debate, it's fascinating. Is an affluent, permissive environment a valid excuse for lack of a moral compass?
It really tests the limits of the psychosocial paradigm. But on the flip side, culture can be an incredible protective factor.
Oh, like the Hutterites in Manitoba.
Yes. The notes mention this isolated Anabaptist religious sect, and their lifetime prevalence of schizophrenia is incredibly low.
It's like 1.1 per 1,000 people, right?
Yep. And why? Because their close-knit religious community structure seems to act as a profound protective buffer. Nobody is isolated.
That is amazing. So, okay, we have genes, we have schemas, unconscious moral conflicts, cultural communities. How on earth do psychologists put all this together for the exam or like for real life?
But using integrative paradigms, they don't just pick one lens anymore.
Thank goodness.
Right. The biggest one is the diathesis stress paradigm.
Okay, I have a final mnemonic for this one.
Yes. Bring it home.
Think of a forest fire.
Okay, forest fire.
The diathesis is your vulnerability. It could be genetic or it could be psychological hopelessness. That is the dry brush on the forest floor.
Highly flammable, but not a fire yet.
Exactly. The stress is the environment. A bad breakup, losing a job, that is the lightning strike.
Ah,
You absolutely need both the dry brush and the lightning strike for the psychopathology to actually start.
that is brilliant. And the text takes this even further with differential susceptibility.
Oh, I remember this.
It says that diathesis isn't always just a negative vulnerability. Sometimes it's just a heightened sensitivity.
Like the orchid and dandelion thing.
Exactly. A dandelion is resilient. It grows anywhere. But an orchid is highly sensitive. If you put an orchid in a harsh environment, it wilts.
Right.
But if you put that exact same sensitive orchid child in a highly supportive, positive environment, they react incredibly well. They outbloom the dandelion.
Wow. And then the biopsychosocial paradigm just maps how all of this Biology, psychology, social factors, constantly interacts in a giant web.
It's all connected. No single paradigm has all the answers, which is why modern psychology is highly eclectic.
So, as we wrap up this study session, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
It builds on that differential susceptibility idea. We always think of resilience as a purely good thing, right? Like a shield against trauma.
Sure, society loves resilience.
But what if high resilience actually causes a society to ignore a person's underlying pain just because they seem fine?
Oh, wow. That's deep.
And what if the highly sensitive people, the ones who seem the most vulnerable to stress, are actually the ones with the highest potential for extraordinary growth and moral depth if we just put them in the right environment?
We might be pathologizing our most potentially brilliant minds just because they are having a natural reaction to a bad environment.
Exactly. It's something to think about. Thank you for joining our study group today on the Psychology Undergrad.
Keep questioning the paradigms in your own lives, everyone.
And we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.